Atlanta never sleeps, but apparently neither do the scandals. And this one? Oh honey, it's messier than a love and hip-hop reunion fight with no security in sight. Picture this. Tamar Braxton, one of R&B's most dramatic divas, waking up in a pool of her own blood. Teeth gone, face fractured, memory wiped. And standing in the shadows of this mystery? None other than Mendeecees Harris. Yes, the same Mendeecees who can't keep his name out of controversy even if you duct taped his mouth shut. And wait for it, because where there's Mendeecees, there's Yandy Smith. And where there's Yandy, cousin Kesha is never too far behind with her legendary pull-up-and-handle-it energy. But here's the real question. What actually went down that night? Did Tamar's innocent dinner turn into a late-night entanglement with Yandy's husband? Did cousin Kesha, allegedly, pull up to deliver Atlanta-style justice? Or is this all one big cover-up with Funky Deneva laughing his way through the chaos while Tamar's fans are left clutching their pearls? And let's be real. If you thought reality TV was scripted, you haven't seen what the streets of Atlanta can cook up after midnight. Because this isn't just gossip. This is betrayal, revenge, and silence so loud, it's practically screaming. So buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into the bloody mystery of Tamar Braxton, Mendeecees Harris, and whether Yandy Smith really sent her cousin to do what she never would. Atlanta has always been the breeding ground for scandal, but what unfolded on this particular night has everyone from gossip blogs to mainstream outlets scrambling for answers and digging through every angle like detectives on a crime show. Because Tamar Braxton's bloody awakening was not just another celebrity accident. It was a mystery wrapped in whispers and tied together with the silence of people who know better than to talk. Tamar Braxton went out to celebrate a friend's birthday night, harmless enough if you only looked at the Instagram stories of clinking glasses and laughter. But what happened after those cameras stopped? Rolling is where the story begins to twist into something darker, because the minute Mendeecees Harris walked into V12 Lounge, everything shifted. Mendeecees has a long history of stirring chaos without ever needing to say a word. His presence alone brings drama, like gravity pulls weight. This is the man whose name has been linked with prison time, infidelity, accusations, and every kind of rumor reality TV could squeeze out. Yet he always manages to sit quiet and let others burn while he stays, mysterious and untouchable. So when Tamar was spotted in deep conversation with him, heads close, bodies leaning in too far to ignore the streets, immediately took note. People whispered about the way their hands brushed, how their laughter looked, a little too private, and how Tamar seemed locked in on him like no one else in the room. This might sound small, but in Atlanta nightlife, small gestures turn into full-blown stories by sunrise, because no one believes two controversial figures like that just happened to talk without something brewing behind the scenes by the time the clock ticked past 1 a.m. Witnesses claim Tamar and Mendeecees slipped out together into the humid Atlanta night. The image alone enough to send fans spiraling, one of R&B's most unpredictable voices leaving hand in hand with one of hip-hop's most scandalized husbands at an hour when absolutely nothing innocent usually goes down. They were not walking into a church revival. They were not attending a charity gala. They were heading into a darkness that would later leave Tamar bruised, broken, and bleeding, and people cannot stop connecting those dots. Funky Deneva, who was part of the night, later admitted that Tamar and Mendeecees ended up back at Tamar's place, though he swears he left shortly after and did not see what went down. But his words only fueled the fire, because if Mendeecees really did go inside Tamar's home, then her house was the final stop before the bloody morning. That shocked everyone. Hours later, Tamar revealed she woke up in a pool of her own blood with teeth gone and her nose fractured, barely able to move and with no memory of what happened. Her friend discovered her and rushed to help. But Tamar herself admitted she was completely blank about the night before, and that is where the whispers grew louder, because accidents do not usually erase memory and leave you battered in your own house without explanation. The silence surrounding the event is what made it explode even further. Tamar did not speak beyond vague posts. Mendeecees never addressed it at all. Yandy Smith posted polished family content on Instagram like nothing happened, and cousin Kesha, the infamous fighter known for handling things Yandy never touches with her own hands, was suddenly the name on every tongue people remembered. The Love and Hip Hop reunion where Kesha charged across the stage and attacked Samantha, the mother of one of Mendeecees' kids, while Yandy pretended not to know her until the cameras exposed. Otherwise, cousin Kesha is not a myth. She is real. She is family, and she has a proven history of showing up whenever Yandy's image needs to stay clean. So when Tamar ended the night allegedly with Yandy's husband and then ended up bloody, the following morning, fans wasted no time weaving the theory together. Tamar plus Mendeecees equals betrayal. Add Yandy's silence and the puzzle screams revenge carried out by the one person who has no problem getting her hands dirty. The story keeps twisting because if this was just an accident, Tamar could have said so by now. If it was exhaustion, if it was a fall, if it was anything explainable, she could have cleared the air, but she has not. And every day she stays quiet, the louder the streets talk. Some claim Tamar is scared to speak out, afraid of Yandy, afraid of cousin Kesha, afraid of what the truth would unravel about her own choices. Others believe Tamar herself does not remember enough to piece it together, leaving her trapped between silence and confusion. The scariest part is how silence works like confirmation in the world of gossip, and Atlanta thrives on filling in the blanks fans. On Twitter turned her injuries into memes, some joking not to play with Yandy's man unless you are ready for cousin Kesha TikTok. Creators reenacted scenes of Tamar staggering into her house only to be met by a shadow. Instagram turned into a battlefield with half the comments calling Tamar messy for chasing another woman's husband, and the other half begging for compassion, saying no. Woman deserves to wake up broken and bleeding. The internet thrives on scandal. And Tamar's silence was like gasoline poured on an already raging fire. And then there was Funky Deneva. Instead of defending Tamar or shutting down the rumors, he leaned into jokes, making parody wanted posters of himself, mocking the idea that he was involved. Fans were outraged, because how could someone laugh when their friend nearly died? But that is Funky's brand humor, as armor humor as distraction. And whether it was bad timing or a deliberate cover-up, his tone only made people more suspicious, because if he truly knew nothing, why not take it seriously? Why not show concern? Why deflect with jokes unless the truth was too heavy to carry? Meanwhile, Mendeecees has stayed completely mute. Not a denial, not a clarification, not even a casual reassurance to his wife that nothing inappropriate happened. He has built his entire persona around letting storms rage around him while he sits silent. And in this case, that silence cuts deeper than ever. Because if he was innocent, if he did not go inside, if he was not with Tamar at all, why not just say? So instead, he lets the rumors swirl that he left the club with her, that he entered her after party, that cousin Kesha pulled up and delivered punishment. And his quiet allows everyone to believe the worst Yandy Smith has perfected silence as strategy, curating her feed with family pictures, skincare promotions, and motivational captions. While cousin Kesha's reputation does all the dirty work, she never has to confirm, never has to deny, because her cousin's history is already stamped in fans' memories, and the brilliance of it is that Yandy's image remains polished, untouched, while everyone else takes the fall. The pattern is clear. Tamar is broken, Funky is joking, Mendeecees is silent, Yandy is strategic, and cousin Kesha is whispered, about like an urban legend who comes knocking when lines are crossed. The morning after Tamar Braxton's shocking revelation, the story was already mutating into something bigger than her broken nose and missing teeth, because this was no longer just about one woman waking up in blood. It was about the way Atlanta thrives on scandal and how quickly silence becomes the perfect soil for conspiracy to grow, while Tamar tried to recover and posted fragments of vulnerability. Online fans began playing detective, piecing together sightings, whispers, and unverified screenshots to create a full-blown crime board, and every thread they pulled seemed to circle back to the same cast of characters: Mendeecees Harris, Yandy Smith, Funky Deneva, and of course cousin Kesha. The legend of Kesha became the backbone of this narrative because her reputation precedes her. She is not some faceless cousin hidden in the family tree. She is the one who stormed onto a love and hip-hop reunion stage years ago, swinging fists at Samantha, while cameras rolled. Yandy played. Innocent then swore she barely knew her, but the receipts later confirmed the blood connection. And ever since that night, fans have considered Kesha Yandy's unspoken enforcer, the cousin who pulls up when Yandy's polished image needs protection. So when Tamar ended up brutalized after leaving with Mendeecees, people did not hesitate to link the dots in their minds. It was simple. Tamar embarrassed Yandy, Yandy kept her hands clean, and Kesha handled business. Anonymous sources started popping up on gossip pages. One Instagram account claimed a neighbor saw a dark SUV pull up outside Tamar's townhouse at around 3 in the morning. Another account insisted they heard yelling and a woman's voice, before silence fell. But of course, none of these claims were verified, and that is exactly what makes them go viral. Because people love the illusion of leaked information. One blog even published an alleged text exchange where someone supposedly close to Tamar said Kesha came through, as if dropping the cousin's name was enough proof to close the case. Whether the text was real or fake did not matter. By the time it spread across Twitter, it was treated as gospel. And suddenly Kesha was the villain of the story, even though she had not been seen nor heard from at all. It was her reputation doing all the work, and Yandy never had to type a single word. Yandy Smith, on the other hand, was living like nothing ever happened, posting glamorous shots with her children, business updates, and inspirational captions. Her silence was not the silence of confusion, it was the silence of calculation. She knows her brand better than anyone. She has built it through years of reality TV manipulation, learning that the less you say, the less ammo you give to your enemies. And in this case, letting cousin Kesha's name do the dirty work kept her hands sparkling. Clean people commented under her posts, demanding answers, asking whether she had anything to do with Tamar's injuries, begging for clarification. But Yandy never took the bait, and that restraint only added to her aura of power she does not have to confirm or deny, because the streets are doing the work for her. And the brilliance is that in every narrative, Tamar ends up looking messy, Mendeecees ends up looking scandalous, Funky ends up looking shady, and Yandy stays polished, untouched by the firestorm brewing all around her. As the story kept spiraling, new leaks began to pop up. Fake police reports, screenshots of hospital records, alleged witness statements, all of them unverifiable, but all of them believable enough to fuel the chaos. One popular rumor claimed that Tamar had been placed under quiet police protection out of fear of retaliation. Another suggested that investigators had already questioned Mendeecees, but were stonewalled by his silence. None of this had any official confirmation, but when gossip hits the internet, the lack of confirmation is seen as proof itself. The more silent the real parties remained, the more powerful the fake stories became. And by now, the narrative had shifted. Tamar was not just a victim, she was a woman who crossed the wrong line and paid the price with her teeth and blood. The streets painted her as reckless, chasing another woman's husband while knowing exactly who Yandy was dealing with. It was the kind of narrative that made people laugh at her, pain instead of sympathizing, which is the cruel reality of how social media consumes trauma. Every time Tamar posted a vague message asking for prayers or thanking fans for support, the comments filled with sarcasm, memes, and accusations. Her silence allowed people to build their own story about her. Some argued she was embarrassed, too ashamed to admit she had been caught in a messy situation. Others believed she was genuinely terrified of what could happen if she revealed too much about that night. And then there were those who thought Tamar herself did not know enough to speak because her memory was gone, replaced with confusion and fear. Her broken body was real proof, but the cause of it remained hidden, leaving her trapped in limbo between victim and suspect. And the longer she stayed there, the more vicious the internet became. The hashtags, the jokes, the reenactments on TikTok, it all turned her trauma into content. Something for people to consume, debate, and ridicule rather than treat with seriousness. The eerie part is how easily silence can rewrite truth. When no one speaks, the loudest voice becomes speculation, and speculation thrives on exaggeration. Tamar's broken body was fact, but the story written around it was pure performance, a performance that cast Yandy as a mastermind, Mendeecees as a silent manipulator, cousin Kesha as an enforcer, Funky Deneva as a laughing traitor, and Tamar as the messy victim who may or may not have deserved what happened to her. It is the kind of storyline that reality TV producers would dream about, except this time there were no cameras, no confessionals, no edits, just blood and bruises, and an audience of millions filling in the blanks themselves. And that is the most chilling part, because when silence becomes strategy, the truth no longer matters, perception does. And in Atlanta, perception has the power to destroy reputations permanently. The deeper the story went, the more it began to feel less like a random accident and more like a scripted saga that everyone was watching unfold in real time. Except this script had no writer's room. It was being pieced together by bloggers, fans, and anonymous accounts who all thrived on dropping half-truths and leaving the rest to the imagination. Tamar Braxton remained the center of it all. Her silence both haunting and suspicious because while her injuries were undeniable, her fractured nose, her missing teeth, her own words describing waking up in blood. The absence of clarity created an open canvas for conspiracy to be painted on, and people painted wildly. Some believed cousin Kesha pulled up directly at Tamar's house after Mendeecees was seen leaving the lounge with her others, swore Kesha did not need to physically be there, that her reputation alone was enough to scare Tamar into silence. Because everyone knows Kesha has a history of showing up unannounced when Yandy's image is at stake, and the fear of that reputation could keep anyone's lips sealed. But there was also a darker interpretation that Tamar herself was hiding something. Maybe she did cross a line. Maybe she was too ashamed to admit that the night was not just dinner drinks and conversation, but something that could have shaken the foundation of Yandy and Mendeecees' already fragile marriage. And if that was true, then the bloody morning was not just random violence, but the consequence of playing with fire in a city where everyone knows fire spreads fast, as the scandal stretched on whispers of legal consequences began. To surface, some gossip blogs claimed quietly that police were investigating possible assault charges, while others insisted the entire situation had been swept under the rug because of the influence Yandy and Mendeecees held in the entertainment. Scene 1. Particularly viral rumor said Tamar had been visited by investigators who asked about possible intruders, but Tamar allegedly refused to cooperate out of fear, whether those details were real or not. Did not matter. What mattered was the impression it left on fans that there was more going on behind the scenes than anyone was admitting. Another thread suggested that Funky Dineva might be questioned because he was the last known friend to be with Tamar before the night turned bloody, and his public joking only made people more suspicious about what he really knew. The silence of the main players gave everyone room to imagine secret subpoenas, undercover investigations, even sealed hospital records being hidden away, but none of it was confirmed, and yet the lack of confirmation was taken as validation that something much darker was at play, and that alone was enough to keep people glued to every update. Meanwhile, the backlash was growing louder, because while Tamar had supporters praying for her safety, there was an equally loud group mocking her situation and calling it karma for years of messy behavior. This divide became the fuel for the fire. Half of the internet saw her as a victim who deserved compassion, while the other half saw her as reckless for stepping into a situation she should have known better than to enter memes comparing her bloody awakening to reality. TV fight scenes flooded Twitter. TikTok dramatizations of the night gained millions of views, with creators acting out versions where cousin Kesha lurked in the shadows, waiting for Tamar to walk through her front door. Instagram was a war zone, with commenters dragging Yandy for staying quiet and others praising her for her composure. The public was split in two, but what they shared was the obsession with piecing together what happened in Tamar's house that night, and why no one involved seemed willing to tell the truth. For Yandy Smith, the scandal could have been disastrous. Yet somehow she emerged untouched, her silence polished and strategic as ever. Her posts about family dinners and business promotions presented an image of a woman unbothered above the mess. And if anything, her reputation as the queen of composure grew stronger because fans knew she did not need to speak her cousin's reputation. Spoke for her people, kept tagging her in comments demanding answers, but Yandy ignored it all, and the very act of ignoring it became power. She let cousin Kesha's name trend, she let Mendeecees' silence create speculation, and she let Tamar's broken image serve as proof that crossing her world had consequences, even if she never had to admit a thing. The chilling brilliance of this is that while Tamar bled, Yandy built her brand, and while the internet fought over theories, Yandy quietly stayed winning in a way only she could. Mendeecees, on the other hand, continued his long-standing performance of silence. His name was dragged across every blog, his face plastered next to Tamar's bruises, yet he said nothing. Not to defend his wife, not to deny leaving the club, not to clear his name. And that silence was interpreted as guilt for some and strategy for others. Fans pointed out that his entire career has been shaped by letting storms swirl around him until they die down. But this time the storm only grew larger. His refusal to speak allowed the rumors of infidelity, of revenge, of cousin Kesha's involvement to flourish unchecked, and the longer he stayed quiet, the more his silence looked like a calculated decision to protect himself at the cost of everyone else. Tamar's fans begged him to step forward. Yandy's supporters begged him to reassure her, but he did none of it, and that deliberate choice turned him from a possible witness into a silent suspect in the eyes of the public. Funky Dineva. only fueled the fire with his humor and sarcasm, refusing to play the supportive friend role people expected his wanted posters. His mocking tone and his refusal to take the situation seriously made him look like he was hiding something even if he was not. His laughter made him appear guilty, and his silence on the more serious details gave the impression that he was protecting secrets too heavy to reveal. And this became another layer of the narrative, the idea that Funky knew what happened, but was distracting with comedy because the truth would destroy too many reputations at once. So here we are left with more questions than answers, a trail of blood, rumors, and silence that feels louder than any statement ever could. Tamar Braxton wakes up broken Mendeecees. Harris vanishes into thin air. Yandy Smith posts family photos as if nothing happened. Funky Dinova laughs it off, and cousin Kesha remains a ghostly shadow in every whispered theory. But what really happened in that Atlanta night? Was this just a tragic accident? Or was it revenge executed with precision and hidden behind curated silence? Ask yourself if Tamar was truly innocent. Why stay quiet if Mendeecees was not inside that house? Why let the world assume he was, if Yandy had nothing to do with it? Why not defend her husband, and if Funky knew nothing, why? Mock instead of protect the truth is either too dangerous or too damaging to be spoken, and that silence leaves us to write the story ourselves. So what do you believe, was this karma chaos or calculated retribution? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your opinion is the verdict in the court of public scandal, and do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell because the streets never sleep, and neither do we.